bats. Bats are now a thing in Planet Zoo, and I really want to talk about them. There is so much to say about the new Egyptian fruit bat and their new walkthrough exhibits, so I figured I'd just give them their own video where we can take a look at how the walkthrough exhibits will work, what you can do with them, and how the bats themselves will work and act in Planet Zoo, as well as what it could all mean for the future of walkthrough exhibits and flying animals in Planet Zoo. And so it all begins by placing down your new big black blank boxes. Wow, that's a mouthful. But yeah, as you'd expect, these are pretty much much bigger versions of our regular exhibits, except this time there's a massive pathway going down the middle of it, making them, of course, walkthrough exhibits, which also, by the way, you cannot delete the path in the middle. It is, as the title suggests, a walkthrough exhibit by definition. Just know this, these boxes are 20 meters long, 12 meters wide, and 8 meters high. So yeah, it really is just a mega version of your regular exhibits. Just know you can actually change the color customization of the box themselves, including the inside of the box, and even the PVC strips at the front. Now it really gets interesting when you can change the materials of your walls to the box. You can change the sides of the walls, the front entrances, and the roof and the ceiling to one of multiple materials. So of course you have a solid wall at the start, but you can also change it to glass, wire, and even null, which is huge, by the way. You can have a null box here. You can have essentially a completely open bat exhibit that you can build all around of. You can just take that and you can have it be a regular bat exhibit. It doesn't have to be a walkthrough exhibit. You can just pretend the pathway isn't there. To me, that was really big to find out that you can make it a null exhibit. It's a shame you can't do that with our regular exhibits and make them null, but oh well, it is just to the bats, and it's pretty cool if you ask me. From there, you can also change the entrance of your box. You can have it either be a null entrance, or you can just keep it as the PVC strips. Now from this point on, we go ahead and add the bats into the exhibit, and you'll see that you have a basic set of materials for the bats to work with. But then if you go to the toggle options, you have a whole big set of toggle options, and I'm going to talk more about that when we get into the bats themselves. But yeah, basically, to me, the actual walkthrough exhibit, the box, has a lot of customization to it. I was really happy to see that. Being able to change it into multiple different kind of materials, as I said, from wire to glass to null, really opens up the possibilities to much more than just a basic, solid, like cave designed bat exhibit, which is what I was expecting. I was expecting this to be much more strict in the customization, more like our regular exhibits, but no, you can do quite a lot with them, and I really appreciate that. So now that we've taken a look at the exhibit, let's go ahead and take a look at the bats themselves. So right off the bat, you have what is very clearly a really good looking animal. Like seriously, Frontier have done a really good job making the Egyptian fruit bat look very realistic. I mean, I'll go as far as saying it's probably the best looking exhibit animal in the game. They really knocked it out of the ballpark. And you want to know how they did that? By using a bat. I'm so sorry. But yeah, the new Planet Zoo Egyptian fruit bats look just perfect in the model. But what about the animations? You know, it's not always about the model, as we know. It also comes down to the movement of the animal. Well, I'm sure as you've seen in the footage, the animals of course fly around quite fast, actually. It's difficult to really see how the flying itself looks when they fly so quickly. You know, bats flap their wings very fast, but again, on first glance, it looks really good. Just going off of my basic bat knowledge, I think it looks pretty much perfect as to how an actual bat would fly around and also hang upside down. Even when they hang upside down and you look at them, they have even more like motions going on. Bats never really stop moving. They're very fast animals, and Frontier have done a really good job recreating that in game, because when you look at them, even when they're staying still, while their body's not moving, their face still is. Like, you just look at their face and the ears are twitching, the eyes are moving, like, they are fast, speedy animals, and you can really see that, or I should say feel that in Planet Zoo when you look at the bats. They're always on a roll, and I think that's pretty impressive in my opinion. And so the animals look really good, and they act really good, but how do they interact with the exhibit itself? Well, it should be pretty obvious, but yes, they are on a looped system, and I'll say right now, the looped system reminds me, honestly, most of Jurassic World Evolution 1, with their aviaries. That last minute aviary they did for the game, it's pretty much just like that cycle where it is on a loop system. It's like one big cycle of animals moving around in an exhibit, but as you add more animals to it, they kind of get into the cycle and it just keeps going. So, and just like our exhibits, our original exhibits in game, you step away from them for a while, you come back, and the animals have kind of switched places. But while you're there, the bats themselves get onto like one of multiple different cycles, whether that be they just stay hanging upside down, or they keep flying around and then eventually go and hang down again, or they just, or for example, when they interact with the exhibit, they could be eating fruit, which we'll get to in a minute, but they're constantly on a moving cycle. It's a big loop, but it looks really good. Like, never mind the fact it's not free flying, they look really good, and that's honestly good enough for me. I just want it to be believable that these are actual real animals moving around in your zoo. And honestly, they do. On first glance, you wouldn't know that it's a loop system, but it is. So I mentioned eating fruit. Well, of course, there is some new toggle options for the bats. When you finally put them in the exhibit, you can now add on multiple things for them to interact with. You're already left with a first set of materials for them to interact with, that being like one thing to hang upside down from. I think the water dish was a part of like the base set of bat materials, but then from there you can go ahead and add like the nectar pole, the more bat boxes, ropes for them to hang on, and of course fruit for like ropes of fruit hanging. And then over time you'll see the bats interact with all of it. They'll come down and fly. They'll fly down to like their pool of water and they'll drink from it. They'll get on top of the fruit and eat it. They will go down and land on top of the nectar and drink it. It's really cool, and it's like constantly moving. It's on a loop, but it looks so realistic in my opinion that it's believable. I'm really happy with the overall system of bats in the game. Bats all around are just really, really well done. Like, honestly, Frontier have really impressed me. I wasn't exactly sure what to expect, but I think all of us will be very happy with the actual individuals themselves. And one last thing I want to mention while we're still on the bats, you can manage your whole population of bats in one exhibit on the new population management tab that was added to the exhibits, complimentary of update 1.11. So yeah, you can manage your whole population there, and that's kind of a whole different discussion. But yeah, bats themselves, 2 big thumbs up from me. Now before we end the video, I want to go ahead and talk a little bit about the future of walkthrough exhibits and flying animals in Planet Zoo. So right away, I'm just going to say that I honestly really hope and expect us to get more bats at some point. At least one more bat species would be great. My personal favorite would be Rodriguez flying fox, as those ones are just really popular in zoos, and even my own local zoo used to have some. I really miss those guys, but yeah, Rodriguez flying fox would be great to see in Planet Zoo, and I really do feel pretty safe in saying we're going to get more bats at some point, especially because they're added to the base game, so these walkthrough exhibits will be used more at some point. So yeah, I'd expect more bats. Even things like spectacled flying fox, I think of. There's a whole bunch more different bat species they could pick from, so more potential there. And so any day now we could get more bats, and that would be just great. But what about flying animals in general? Well, the big question now is, how does all of this lead to aviaries? It's really hard to say whether or not this is going to be how aviaries are done, let alone if this does mean we're going to get aviaries. But I will say, I feel pretty safe in saying that this is good evidence that we will get aviaries at some point. I just don't really think they're going to be done quite like this. I think what we have here with Planet Zoo's new bats is a good foundation, a good basis for flying animals in Planet Zoo, more like Frontier dipping their toe into the air of flying animals in the game. And again, it's a good test run, but I don't expect it to be exactly like this, because the truth is, like the new system they've just created here with the walkthrough exhibits, it works really well for bats, but I can't picture my macaws on a big loop system like this. Like with bats, it's not a big deal because bats are so small and are so numerous, but I don't want to see like my 2 to 3 macaws in one exhibit constantly just on one loop. I really on one loop in one contained space with no real, massive customization other than just building around them. I kind of hope that whatever they do with aviaries is more complex than this. And then again, at the end of the day, maybe this is all we'll ever get with aviaries. Like, maybe this is the closest we'll ever be, but I will say, at least for now, this is pretty cool, and the fact that you can make these bat exhibits basically look like aviaries, I mean, they basically are aviaries, gives me hope that we will see them at some point, but I don't want to say it's a for sure, nor do I think it's going to be exactly like this, but that's just my own opinion. It does give me a lot of hope, though, that we will see birds, free-flying birds, at some point. And maybe not even free-flying, maybe they will be looped. I guess we're going to find out. But yeah, overall, Planet Zoo's new bats are definitely a very promising sign for the future of Planet Zoo, regardless of what exactly it is. I really do hope that this is the start of more to come, more new things for them to try. I guess we're just going to find out. But I want to go ahead and say thank you to everyone for watching this video. Stay tuned as I do have even more content coming up for the Twilight Pack. Let me know if you plan on getting this pack and if you are excited for the bats themselves. Let me know what you think about them, and you can let me know in the comments down below. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.